This is a Honda CB125E, and this is the stunning Sydney skyline. I've ridden this little rental bike 3,000 kilometers around southeastern Australia, and just before I give it back today, I want to talk about it. Welcome to An Ordinary World. If you're new here, my name is Ferdy, and today we're going to talk little bikes and big adventures. Starting at the front, we've got an 18-inch front with a single disc front brake. We've got not quite dual clocks, whatever poor unfortunate bike they've scavenged the dash from. They've blacked out one of the clocks, so now you get a speedometer, you get a gear indicator and a fuel gauge. We've got a single cylinder 125, which once upon a time you might have got 10 horsepower out of. It just thumps away endlessly. 5-speed transmission, again 18-inch rear with a drum brake, and that's it. That is really it. There is not much to say about it, and I suppose that's one of the big appeals of a little bike like this, is it's just the bare necessities and you're good to go. I've been getting a max speed of about 65 kilometers an hour. Now, you would get a cruising speed of about 80 if it was in good condition, so I'm going to judge this bike on its potential, not how it actually is. So let's say you get a cruising speed of about 80 kilometers an hour. It's steady enough. Of course, on a highway at high speeds, it's a little bike, so you are going to get a bit of waving around, but for being a 125, it's got quite a profile, you know? It's narrow, but it's tall enough that when you're sitting in traffic, you can still just about see over it. It has a little bit of a heft to its presence, and that's quite commendable for being a little bike. Now, I'll be honest, I don't like little bikes. This is something I've learned on this trip. They don't do it for me. Not once in 3,000 kilometers did I ever feel I was riding this bike. It was hour after hour of sitting with full throttle, just buzzing away, and in the rare occasions where you got a bit of a downhill and some curves, you don't really have the confidence in the machine to really push it, because they're skinny little tires, and she does become a bit unstable in curves and at high speed. Now, I'm going to be objective about this, and I would like to say though that the CB125E has impressed me in some areas. The 14-litre tank, for example, combined with the tiny little 125 engine, means I was stopping to fill this up at quite long intervals. I was really impressed with the mileage I was getting out of this. I was doing maybe 400 kilometers to a tank, and I wasn't even running it dry, just towards where it was starting to hover above empty. I was really impressed at that, and for being a little bike, she does have quite a nice engine exhaust note. That's not bad. So if you're going downhill and you close your eyes, which I don't recommend doing, but sometimes you can imagine that you're not on a 125, that you are on something a little bit heftier. And honestly, I don't really have any negatives to say about this particular bike. I think it's a very good bike. It's a Honda, it's bulletproof. It is a small bike, however, and it suffers from the regular shortcomings of little bikes. It is essentially a motorized bicycle, and you are severely lacking in power, which for me is kind of the whole point of motorbikes. You stick an engine between two wheels, you make it light, and you give it power. People might associate the power with the danger of motorbikes, but actually it's our get-out-of-jail-free card, because as small vehicles, we rely on being able to get out of trouble before it happens to us. I have never felt so vulnerable than when I've been sitting on this little bike at full throttle, knowing that there is nowhere I can go. This is it. This is my capacity. If anything happens, I'm stuck here. I am at the mercy of the gods. The braking, again, it's sufficient. Everything is just about sufficient on this bike. But sufficient is sufficient for what this bike was designed to do, which is commuting, scooting around the city, delivery, courier work, and for that It performs spectacularly well. It's cheap, it's reliable, it's simple. What it was not designed to do was ride 3,000 kilometers around southeastern Australia, loaded with camera equipment, tent, sleeping bag, mattress, laptop, clothes. But that's what I did. And I did it because it was cheap. This bike is a rental. It cost me $100 a week, about 60 euros, which is nothing. You get what you pay for, yes, but if you're willing to take a gamble and if you're willing to sit at 65 kilometers an hour, what you get is an adventure bike at an incredibly low cost. As a wise man once said, the best adventure bike is the bike you've got, and this is what I've got, and I had an adventure on it. We live in a time where the motorbike brands and marketing is constantly pushing you to buy the next generation of adventure bike, the next redesigning of the same old gear for hundreds of dollars, hundreds of euros worth. And sure, those are good bikes. Sure, expensive gear is good gear. But a lot of people who want to have adventures can't afford an adventure bike with, I don't know, Touratech and Lone Rider gear strapped everywhere around it. And for those people who need an alternative, it can be quite hard to battle mentally and expectationally against the weight of the brands and the marketing trying to get you to part with your hard-earned cash for stuff you don't really need. Don't get me wrong, I am not a budget martyr. As soon as I can afford to, I will buy myself waterproof gear. I have a GS which is near and dear to my heart. But if you're a young person without tons of disposable income and you want to get out there and see a little bit of the world, you can. You just need to be prepared to take the bad with the good. What is the good of a little machine like this? Well, it's cheap, it's reliable, it's affordable, it's light. As someone who rides a GS, the lightness is a novelty. Now, the lightness is also a fault because you do get tossed around by wind, by the blast of trucks, for example, and you lack that power, which is so important to us bikers. It means you're going to be traveling slowly. Now, traveling slowly is not always a bad thing. Some people say that traveling slowly will give you a better adventure or whatever. And for those people who actually prefer smaller bikes because of the more authentic adventure or whatever, I think you're wrong. I don't think having a bike that you need to constantly stop or that is constantly breaking down brings a better adventure. Adversity does not a good adventure make. Adventure is a mindset. The outlook on life that travel gives you can be gained on a CB125 or a 1250 GS. It's all about your outlook, it's about your approach, and it's about your mindset. So yes, you will be traveling a little bit slower. Make of that what you will. It does mean that you will get to see the scenery as it slides by at a very leisurely pace, but it is also quite limiting. Sometimes you need to get from A to B fast. And on this sort of a machine, you're just not going to be able to do that. Load capacity. Again, with the power, it's limiting. There is only so much you can pile on this bike before it becomes unrideable. I was pretty much at the limit and I had just this back area here piled high. Now I've got to say, this back area with the extension rack it's more than ample. I was able to fit a pile of stuff on this to the point where it actually looked comical. But the weight is a serious issue. If you have a pillion passenger, again, forget it. Like a motorized bicycle. That's what you've got to keep in mind. That's what it is. Nevertheless, people do go around the world on bikes like this and even smaller out of necessity or out of preference. I have nothing but respect for people who travel the world on foot or by bicycle. That's not for me. I've very much discovered that I am both a traveller and a biker, and the biking part is crucial. It's the marriage of the two that is... that's just why I do what I do, because I love it. But as I said at the end of the trip, when I went to rent a little bike to take it for a spin down to Melbourne and back, I was actually told that it was impossible. I was denied the rental of it. And I was told that if you want to do a trip around Australia, you need a big bike. The guy was pointing to a GS Trophy saying, this is what you need. You can't do it on a 125. In my head, of course, I was saying, well, actually you can, but I was just going, yeah, okay, we'll try somewhere else. The place where I rented this little bike from didn't ask any questions, I didn't tell any lies. We'll see in a few hours when I bring it back if there's any raised eyebrows at the mileage that it's done. But again, it did the mileage. And I never had any doubt that it wouldn't. It's a robust little Honda engine. As I said, they are bulletproof. They have been around for decades. People have taken them around the world. Now, due to the condition that this particular bike was in, I didn't take it off-road. I didn't carry any tools with me because I was only here for 3 weeks. It was a 3-week off-the-cuff adventure. So I didn't want to spend money on tools and whatever. So I didn't take it off-road. I didn't take it anywhere that I was worried that if anything were to go wrong, I wouldn't see anyone, because it is Australia. Things do get a bit remote the further out back you go. If I had a bigger bike, again, I would be more confident in doing that, but I didn't. So yes, a little bike does limit you, but like with anything in life, it's about your mindset. It's about taking what you've got and doing the best with it. It's about not letting anyone tell you that you can't do something because you don't have X, Y, and Z. And I think that's the big takeaway from this whole experience. I never had any doubt that the bike wouldn't be able to do it, but I felt I had a point to prove to people who, like the guy I met at the bike rental, told me that if I wanted to do something, I needed to do it with this and spend a lot of money doing it. You don't. But you are going to be limited. However, limitation is opportunity if you look at it in a certain point of view. So in this world where there seems to be a cost of living crisis just about everywhere, where young people in particular have very little disposable income but would still like to see a bit of the world, because of course they would, there are options. Ed Marsh from C90 Adventures is a legend in the overlanding community for riding his little Honda 90 around the world. My friend Miles from the Free Miles MC channel took his XJ off-roading across Iceland, which is somewhere people go with the latest and greatest of adventure bikes, and he had a great time doing it. You can do it. It just takes a little bit of an alternative mindset and putting up with all the turned up noses and looks of disgust from GS riders as you roll up beside them on your little 125 with bits and pieces hanging out of you. Give them a smile, because ultimately we're all seeing the same world. We're all riding bikes, which is what we want to do. It's what we love. It doesn't really matter the bike that you're on, so long as you're on it and using it, you'll have a blast. The best adventure bike is the bike you've got. That said, I can't wait to be rid of this little thing. Thank you, baby Honda. You've done great, but time for you to go back to Uber Eats, I think. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you soon. I'm used to a village every 10 kilometers or so, each with its own hilltop castle. I'm used to a landscape that changes every 100 kilometers, a language every 200, and a whole new country every 300. I've never ridden anywhere before that I've gone an hour without seeing a single person. I've never ridden 6 days in one direction while staying in one country. In fact, I don't think that's even possible in Eurasia. But that's Australia, and I am anything but bored.